important thing is you need to learn the dealing with men. Where there are men sitting, you need not discuss your chit-chat issues or chit-chat things. Because what you see at that moment is those men, they are also pleasantly enjoying your talk. You say, I'm not talking to him, but I'm talking to another female colleague of mine and I'm telling her, Kal main gayi thi park mein walk karne. Then we went to the coffee place and their coffee is so good. And I make excellent coffee. You don't have to talk about such things in front when you know that men would also be listening to those talks. You have to be careful over there. You have to have minimum interaction with men. You have to minimize all those areas. It should be yes, no, limited talk, and keep rehearsing and practicing it. Because we have all these warnings. Let's look at whale fact number 3. The mahram relatives. Why did I call it mahram relatives? These are our cousins. The childhood buddies. Chao, bhen bhai. From our childhood time, our parents told us, you are brothers and sisters. Sometimes you're living in a bigger, large, joint family system. You have been raised together. You have been sharing secrets together. You have been playing together. And suddenly one day you realize, no, he's a non-mahram. He's a non-mahram. And you don't know how to explain it to him. That I can't interact with you at the same level now. This is a big challenge. Why? Because we are relaxed with them. They are young. They have desires. And there are no barriers. I mean, you want to go out to the market, your mom says, jao, chacha ke bete ko, taya ke bete ko, phupho ke bete ko, mamu ke bete ko, khala ke bete ko le jao. And he is also looking for that opportunity. You also enjoy with him. मैं भाई कहती हूँ लेकिन पता नहीं अच्छे बहुत लगते हैं. The way I can communicate with him, can't communicate with anyone else. It's like a different level. I can't explain it. I can explain it to you. I can tell you what's happening. Where the mess is. What are the dangers in this? Sexual abuse. This is one of the dangers. Apart from having affairs and ultimately deciding one of them gets serious and they want to marry, and then your parents have another plan for you. But the danger is sexual abuse. He might be abusing you and you can't even utter a word. You can't say this about him. Even your parents, your own parents are going to hush you up. You say, तुम्हारे भाई की तरह है, तुम कैसी बातें कर रही हो? Incest. What is incest? When you have illegal relationship, physical relationship with a mahram. So I'm not over here talking about just the cousin, even your own brother. You are not safeguarding yourself in front of him. You're exposing yourself to him. The way you're sitting with him, even your mamu, even your chacha, taya. These are the mahram relatives around. And we see fitnas. As a doctor, I can tell you, I have seen pregnancy with mamu. I have seen pregnancy with father-in-law. And I have seen pregnancy with the brother. Why? Because when we cross those limits which have been given to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we do have problems. You need to know the limitation with your mahrams. Looking at their interest. If you have a mahram relative who is into movies, into fashion, he is on the dance floor on every wedding. He enjoys cracking jokes, talking to you about everything. You have to be very careful in your dress, in your talk, in your actions, everything that you do around that person. Otherwise, you are taking yourself towards that path. Taqrabu zina. You're going near zina. You are taking that path. If not him, there is going to be another person. If you look at the people who are abused, the figures are alarming world over. They say every one person in 3 or 4 have been abused. Why? Because you are not taking care of all the protections that are given to you. Sometimes when I go to certain weddings, And I look at the mixed culture over there. The girls, they are dressed up to kill. The guys, they are also in that very joyous kind of a mood. And they are trying to have the best of the time. And with all this scenario, what is expected when your hormones, your emotions, everything on the high, you're happy, you want to have good time, and when there are people around you who are lowering or suppressing your self-esteem, somebody comes up either through the gaze or the action or the message or somehow gives you this indication, you are wow. You're a superwoman. I like you. And you notice this person following you all around. So you have dil mein kuch hota hai. Your heart, it derails you. It takes you into a totally different direction. How do you safeguard yourself in those areas? And then I compare it with a wedding, which is an Islamic wedding. Females all dressed up, enjoying in a halal manner, totally segregated, totally away from men. And the men, they're in totally different area. You don't even get to see anyone. The fitna is not there. You have safeguarded yourself from that fitna. So we are exposing ourselves to all these fitnas. The temptations are there without any fears. This is a big danger. Because if you're sitting, if there is a man who just walks in, everyone is going to be on alert. Your parents, your brothers, sisters, other people around you would tell you, go in your room. But when you're sitting with someone in your family, it's your cousin, there are other relatives around, men, nobody's bothered. They're like तुम्हारे अब्बा के दोस्त, even अब्बा के दोस्त भी उसमें आ जाते हैं. And those uncles, the chummy uncles, they will tell you, तुम छोटी सी थी, मैं तुम्हें उठा के लेके जाता था market. Let's go even now. Seriously feel like slapping those uncles. And sometimes the parents are also sleeping. They can't even see the kind of gestures they are making. So what's the solution? You need to have overall careful attitude. Careful attitude. How do you have a careful attitude? You can't go up and tell them, today we had a seminar and I now understand the standard of modesty and astaghfirullah, get lost. They'll tell you are not going to that seminar anymore. What are you talking about? And they'll try to convince you their way. You know what do? You need to be a smart person. You gradually withdraw. Gradually withdraw. And if somebody comes up and says, you have changed, and you look up at them and say, Acha, nahi, koi nahi. Because the moment you start giving them explanation, they trap you. They trap you into another big logic of theirs. So what you have to do is immediately tell them, it's okay, it's fine. I want to now stick to girls. I feel more comfortable with girls. And when there are men around, then you have to be taking extra care. You need to have clarity about your hijab limitations. And hijab limitation being your dress code, where you look, how you talk, what you discuss, and you have to prepare yourself for that. Okay, over the weekend, so-and-so relatives are coming up, the guys are also going to be sitting, this cousin was my childhood buddy, he is going to come up and talk to me. How will I safeguard myself? What am I going to talk about? How will I deal with all this situation in a smart manner? And your inner alarm system should start buzzing the moment you see even one word, one gesture, and you immediately withdraw from that person. And the last of all, I would talk about these unspoken desires, these desires which surge up inside us. Quickly go over it. There was a study from a university for the 607 students, and we can come up with a lot of other studies as well. They say the desires depend upon the social norms. What is socially accepted, people also accept that. There is nothing wrong with that. That is why it is important to have a culture of Haya. Because if you have a culture of Haya, then everyone will go on high alert if something is going immodest. Second, you also try to understand if you're an introvert or an extrovert. Because people who are introvert, they're not able to tame their desires, take them at a higher level, what will happen to them? They will go into all those perversions with themselves. Like pornography, sexually playing with your own self, even going into homosexuality, because you are allowed to be with same sex, but you're not allowed to be with opposite sex. And if you're extrovert, then your slogan is going to be "Pyar kiya to darna kya." You're like, I'm the bold and the beautiful. You're making these open declarations on the social media as well as on all the platforms. Through your dress, body language, the way you talk, the way you interact with men. So men and women, they say sometimes they have different preferences depending upon their background and their ideologies, and sometimes they don't. Need for love is very important. And also low self-esteem. If you have a low self-esteem, you don't like yourself, and then you have always felt nobody loved you in your family, took care of you. It might be right, it might not be right. Sometimes parents are doing a lot for us, but we don't recognize it. Or sometimes even parents have their own level of issues that they're struggling with. So they're not able to give that due time and love to the kids. So when you have a love gap, that's when you fall into all these issues. And when you have desires, it starts with fantasizing. People start with fantasies. You can have a positive fantasy where you say, I'm going to be a daya. This is where I see myself as a strong Muslimah. But you can have a negative way of fantasizing in which what you do is you indulge into filthy thoughts. And the consequence is you go into that evil habit of self-gratification. The moment you have this desire, either you fulfill it through a movie or a song, or you keep heading towards porn, or you move ahead through some haram act. So that is why the aggravating factors we find out for this fantasizing is when you're casting those filthy gazes at the non-mahram. And it has become so easy. Because maybe when you're standing over here or you're in the public places, you keep your gaze lower towards men. But when you're on your social media, in front of your screen, and you're looking at him and you're like, hi, ये अच्छा लग रहा है, ये वाली पिक्चर थी, ये अच्छी है, इसमें कैसा लग रहा है? And we're stalking those people. So we need to be careful. Watching porn, and they say porn starts with addiction to screens. And yes, today I realized porn just doesn't start with addiction to screens. They start with when we don't lower the gaze. That's an important thing to understand. And then the porn magazines or reading those passages from the books where there are hot scenes. The second step comes up. We start watching and doing haram in ourselves. How do we get over it? We have already talked about it. You lower your gaze. You do not spend too much time on internet. And alhamdulillah, when we're living in times of fitna, we also are living in the time where there are so many apps and options where we apply self-blocks on different social activities that we do. Then try not to be alone unless when it's necessary. This is in particularly for the desires. When somebody comes up and says that when I'm alone, I indulge into something which is inappropriate, then you need to safeguard yourself from being alone. Keep a watch on your company. If you're hanging out with people who are also involved in such activities, they will drag you into it. And you need to adopt a simple lifestyle. By simple, I mean if you're only doing things to please your taste buds and just enjoy things for the sake of it, with no substance, no grounding, solid grounding in it, that's when you land, or your desires, they are always on the simmer. When they're on the simmer, somebody increases the flame and you start boiling. You are hot. And you're looking desperately for places where you satisfy your desires. And that is why Rasulullah ﷺ said, O young men, those among you who can support a wife should marry, for it restrains eyes and preserves one from immorality, but he who cannot afford it should observe fast, for it is a means of controlling the sexual desire. Like a couple of days back, somebody was asking me, I know these couple of young men in my family because I'm a big advocate of early marriages for boys as well as for girls. So somebody came up to me and said to me that I have these men in my family, they're like 27, 28 years old, and they say, let us get done with our career option and then we'll opt for shadi, marriage. But they are very sharif. I said, okay, let me check. Let me check, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us desires in this young age. Let me check through a criterion if they are actually following in that domain. Can you ask them that when they are studying and working with females, what do they do about their desires? Where is their gaze? Do they look down? Do they look down when they talk to you and other women in the family? Do they spend more time in masajid with scholars? Do they fast? What do they do for the desires that naturally come to them? The moment you are young, or I would say you come in that marriageable age, you start liking that opposite sex. You develop this feeling for romance. It has got nothing to do with sharafat. That somebody who looks very sharif doesn't have any feelings. Everyone has these feelings. So I laid that question to her. Give me an answer for this thing. If he doesn't have a girlfriend, he's not watching movies, he's not romancing with anyone, he's not even fasting, he's not even looking down, what is he doing? How does he guard his chastity? Have you seen him keep those fasts, the monthly fast, and even otherwise? She said, no. I said, then how can he guard it? If there is a person who claims to be clean, has to be following the standards which have been given to us by Quran and Sunnah. The answer for this desire is contentment, and it's the opposite side, the other side of the coin, in which what you do is, you either let go of those desires or satisfy them through halal means. And that is why Rasulullah ﷺ said, if you do not feel haya, shame, then do as you like. And for that we have been given these three important things. These things you need to practice in your life. And I'll close down with this. Self-control. Self-control in your life in every area. There's a tasty dish in front of you and you feel that I need to first do some important task and then take a bite from it, you wait for it. And this self-control is going to reflect in your other desires as well. When we finish off from this hall, all of you will have to walk out. See if you have that self-control, that you get up nicely, decently, not eroding other people, not jumping through other people, not pushing other people, being in line and then going out. I have seen it often on the flight. The moment aeroplane lands and it takes another 10-15 minutes for the door to open. The moment it lands and they're constantly announcing, please be seated. But what people are doing, they're opening the cabins and they're pulling out their stuff and they're standing for those 15 minutes. But they can't even go out. It's ridiculous. And they're looking at people like me who are sitting on their seats. Inhone jana nahi hai. They want to keep sitting in the aeroplane. Those people who do not have self-control for small things in their life, their sexual desires will drive them crazy. That is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us to do sabr, sabr, sabr. Second is self-discipline. How I present myself publicly. Where I sit, how I sit, what I talk, what I don't talk. I don't call myself stupid. No, you don't have self-discipline. What to say, how to say, when to say, where to say. Learn that. Because the moment you have self-control, your life is going to be disciplined in many areas. Third, then you come to self-purification, the tazkiyah. Small things around you are aligned. You are settled, well-grounded in your personality. And when you're well-grounded in your personality, then the challenges of zina, immodesty, they are always going to be around you, off-shooting around you. You can deal with it. Now you would understand. There will be pop-ups in your head on a certain verse, on a certain thing that you read, you heard, and you go according to that. So understand, at the end, there is nothing wrong. You're a normal person if you have sexual desires crossing your mind. You're a very normal person. But the challenge starts, you have to recognize your triggers. Challenge starts, if you have a desire, how you are taking care of it, in a haram manner or a halal manner. When you are interacting with men, how do you interact with them? Then, if you have hobbies, healthy hobbies, where is your willpower? How you distract yourself from wrong activities, and what kind of company you're sticking to. And I'll end off with this hadith in which Rasulullah ﷺ said, whoever can guarantee what is between his two jawbones and what is between his two legs, I guarantee him Jannah. Two jaws. What we talk about, how we talk, and then two legs. How we take care of our sexual desires. That is like the epitome of Haya. You started working on your daily rituals, your dealings, your everything, and you have become that dynamic person that Islam wants us to be. You don't become a person who cannot take a stand for yourself in any environment. And that's where we give those examples of sahabiyat being in the battlefield, sahabiyat being in business, sahabiyat working in different areas, going to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, taking a stand for themselves. That's when the personality comes in. It doesn't come by ripping off your clothes, talking dirty, and having mismanaged emotions. So Jazakallah khairan, and may Allah help us safeguard our chastity and modesty and haya. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.